Hey everybody, welcome to the Beyond the Diode podcast from EverLast Lighting. You may remember way back, numerous months ago, we began this little journey with the podcast, and it's been a busy year for us. So unfortunately, the podcast has kind of fallen by the wayside with some new product releases, some new things that we're working on in engineering for further product development. So now that those things are starting to get caught up, we figure it's time to get the cameras fired back up, the microphones turned on, and start discussing what's new with EverLast Lighting. And just like last time, I've got our VP of Sales, Justin Cook, sitting up here with me. No one better in the company to talk to about we've been working on and what we've got coming up in the near future. But welcome back, Justin.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. It's funny. It feels weird to say welcome back because we literally walked upstairs together from our offices downstairs, and I'm acting like we haven't seen each other in ages, but it's been
forever.
Yeah, 30 seconds is a lifetime.
Long time. Yeah.
So I guess I'll just get started with talking about some of the things that we've been working on this year. One of the big ones that comes to mind for me is the NSF rating that we've recently had applied to our high bay line. I know that through the process of going through the NSF rating, actually leading up to it, let me back up, leading up to that, we had discovered numerous opportunities that we feel like we might have been missing out on by not having the NSF rating. And doing some further investigation, we found some interesting things out about the NSF rating as far as, NSF doesn't necessarily mean that super smooth profile fixture that we had always thought that it might be. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of those things that we learned and that kind of steered us towards the NSF rating for our high bay?
Yeah, absolutely. So when initially we started looking at NSF, this was probably 2-3 years ago, we kind of looked at it from the standpoint of what an IP rating would be. So I think most people know, you got dust tight, watertight, those type of things. So when you initially got an NSF fixture in, it was like an IP69K rated fixture, which is a great, you can chuck that thing into a body of water and it will last, which is fantastic. But unless you're NSF with it, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And so what we were finding was, we were going up against other competitors and looking at this, and with the IP69K rated fixture, and it was a really high priced product,
right?
And so we were having issues kind of competing in that market, and realized what we were going up against were fixtures that were similar to kind of our standard high bay, which is our HL17E fixture,
right?
And we thought, okay, why is this happening? What are we seeing from it? And we started looking at what their NSF rating was, started seeing it was like a splash zone 2 rating,
yes.
And ended up and decided, okay, now we got to investigate this. And that's what we did. So we looked at it and said, let's take our standard high bay, get it NSF rated, get it splash zone 2 rated, be able to compete on that market as well.
Yep. And it's really convenient that about 25-30 minutes down the road from us in Ann Arbor, Michigan, there's an NSF certification laboratory.
That's the headquarters.
It's the headquarters, even better.
Yep.
We don't just work with the lab, we work with the headquarters.
Absolutely.
So working with them, again, it was a good process to be able to have that back and forth with them being so close to where we're at. And I think one of my biggest takeaways as being someone not just in the marketing department, but also, of course, in the sales department as well, is that now we've opened up the door for a lot of other opportunities for us. And it was nice knowing that we could take our standard offering, and because it was already designed right out of the gate so what it's sealed perfectly. It's a great design that it was easy for us to get that NSF certification. So again, part of the messaging I kind of want to deliver, the marketing side of me is speaking now, to those watching, to keep in mind that our standard high bay, not only is it perfect for an industrial setting or a commercial setting, warehousing, things like that, we're also seeing it adopted more and more now, especially throughout this year, in those food sector environments where NSF is critical.
Yep, and I would say that's a big part of why we did it. NSF it's not even specific to food areas.
No, for sure.
And it helps us with, we both know that there's not a natatorium rating, but in that sense, you can look at it and say, well, it's an NSF rated fixture. That gives another opportunity to kind of fit into a market that might not just not be the food industry,
right,
but other areas as well that might require that NSF rating.
Right.
So we were, again, super excited about getting that, and I think it's a kind of a next step forward in making, what our HL17E is, which is a very highly customizable fixture.
Right.
NSF doesn't, like you said, might not apply to every industry that we kind of dip our toes in, or every industry that we work in. but it does apply to areas that are important to the market, and that's the main reason why we wanted to do it.
Yeah, it's a really good point that you brought up there about the natatorium that we get a lot of calls for and a lot of product delivered to, you know, facilities like that, natatorium facilities, local YMCAs, things like that. And although there is not a quote unquote natatorium rating, like you said, the NSF rating that we have for that splash zone 2, it's just further, I guess, reinforces the fact that this is a very sealed fixture and is ideally suited for those applications. You know, it's able to be hosed down. Yeah, it's definitely a good choice. And I think that that seal of approval from NSF just further solidifies what we already knew internally. Now the rest of the world can see that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a big deal for us, and we're super excited about getting that in here.
Yep, definitely. So again, if you're looking for something NSF rated, be sure to reach out to your local manufacturer's representative and see if they're a carrier of the EverLast line, and we'd be glad to work through them and help you out. And if you're one of our reps watching, well, you already know this. This is already old news to you. So next topic. This is an interesting one. Kind of far removed from NSF. A little bit different. So historically, I think, again, we've kind of traditionally been known as a top-tier high bay maker, especially with that customizability. There's so many things we can do with that. But more so, we're really well known for our high temperature offering that we have. Very competitive in the high temp spaces like steel mills, pulp and paper mills, powder coating, metal treating, things like that. Very robust fixture. So we've got our standard high bay. The HL17E is the current part number for that, but it's part of that Legend series, the standard high bay. And then we've got our 65C in the high temp range. And you've kind of got this gap in between the two. And having some of the conversations with some of our reps, especially those that deal in the industrial spaces, you know, the conversations we're leaning towards, you know, the high temp, great, perfect. It might be overkill for some applications. Standard temp might not quite get us to where we need to be. So there was nothing in there. So we kind of developed a stopgap for that, and that would be
it's our mid-temp fixture. Yeah. So what we ended up doing, we started looking at in terms of, you know, what fixture where we're kind of missing the mark a little bit. And I think we kind of fit from a round high bay standpoint in a lot of different spaces. You know, we just talked about with the NSF filling that void. But the big part of this was seeing, okay, we know that we go up to 122 degrees Fahrenheit in our standard fixture, and we know we go up to 150 degrees in our high temp fixture. But sometimes that high temp fixture is overkill.
Right.
You know, when you start falling in between that 122, 140, 145 degrees, right. Where it's not really necessary to have that, just based on the cost and everything as well. Again, our high temp in comparison to other ones on the market, I think most people know, you talked about with our reps, and but with customers is much better positioned than a lot of our competitors there. But we also wanted to kind of fill that space that we see with some of our competitors that kind of fall in that mid-temp area. Right. And so we ended up looking at this and saying, okay, we can get something up to that 145 degrees Fahrenheit to really allow us to be able to fill that gap in between, and also even lower the cost that would be to the end user, to our rep, different things like that as well. That was one of our main focuses, while still coming at it from the standpoint of what we offer, which is a high quality product.
Right. And just like all the other high bays in our line, especially those in that Legend series, again, the standard temp, the high temp, and now the mid temp in between, fully customizable. A lot of different options there as far as, you know, how you can configure this fixture as well.
Yep, and it's not, you know, the good thing with it kind of, with falling in between that high temp and that standard temp, you know, depending on where it falls in that scale, you can have different products or different accessories that fall on it. You know, as you get higher temp, there's certain things that you can't. Right. Lower temp in between, you know, 120, 122, 130 degrees, you might be able to fit some more accessories onto it. Right. So, you know, we look at it from the standpoint, again, how we do things is from kind of that customizable standpoint. You know, it's a good product if you just need to get something and fit within that mid-temp area and put it up in the air. But we can, if it need be, to focus on the customized side of things.
Yep, agreed. So, and then, you know, like with our high temp, it's going to be kind of our standard warranty process goes with that. 5-year warranty with that. Again, based on the environment that it sits in as well, and what it's exposed to, I guess would be the best way to put that. So again, you know, a couple of really cool new announcements, I guess, from us as far as certifications go and new product. And as always, we're constantly in the background working on more new product. Can't go into detail on it now, but there's something that I've personally have been asked about quite a few times by my reps this year, both during my trainings and on sales calls. And I'm just teasing it now. I'm not going to give anything more than that, but if you've been asking me for something in particular, reach out to me. We'll probably have conversations about that. That's as far as I'm going to go. Justin's giving me
I appreciate that because I'm giving him the evil eye right now,
yeah,
not to do anything. Yeah, that's the thing how we're doing it. I think Jamie's touching on it right now. Is it's our goal is to we have a very concise product line. We have a high bay and we have area lights. And that's really our focus. So within that, we innovate in how we do things.
Exactly.
And so it's constant innovation, whether it's doing the mid-temp, NSF, or focusing on maybe areas outside of that, and really kind of building on those product families,
right?
And making them better along the way as well. We're never going to stop innovating in how we do things, and we're never going to stop being one of the top high bay and area light providers in the country.
Couldn't have said it better myself. We don't have the most vast product line out there because we'd rather be a master of a couple of things rather than a jack of all trades. You know that old adage. So, and like Justin said, within that space, there's always room for innovation. We're always looking at what the potential is out there for, I don't want to say expanding our product line, but again, further continued innovation within that space. So yeah, it's exciting. I think we've got some fun things to probably go into maybe at the beginning of next year. The process for development of new product is rather lengthy. I don't think people really realize just what goes on behind the scenes here as far as the design phase, internal testing, and then you've got certifications and listings that all have to be gone through, and those can be a tedious process. So again, be on the lookout in the semi-distant future for some very cool innovations from us.
Absolutely.
Yep. I think that's about all I got time for today. We wanted to keep this short and concise and just let you know what's new from us currently. And like I said earlier, if you've got any questions on the existing lineup or something that we discussed today, reach out to your local manufacturer's representative. And if you happen to be one of our reps and something we talked about today did not ring a bell, reach out to us. We'd be glad to get you up to speed on that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jamie. I appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. And I'm not going to promise that these are going to be more frequent, but we're doing everything we can to try to roll these out in a little more timely manner. I think we're finally getting up to speed and caught up on what has been kind of a whirlwind year for us this year. So again, as time progresses, we'll try to do these a little more frequently with not just product updates, but also introduce you to more members of the team. I can't just sit here with my boss all the time.
Yeah, and it's sometimes talking with you is a little bit tiring. So if we could figure something else out,
it can be. I understand completely. Well, until the next episode, you guys take care and don't hesitate to reach out to myself or again one of our other members of the sales team. We'll have links to their information below. You guys take care.